We will now end the meeting regarding a possible intervention in the war between the Terran Federation and the Predatory Coalition, formed by the Abraxan Great Clans, the Lacan Stellar Pack, and the Arcturus Galactic Conclave. The motion is denied. We will allow the Terran Ambassador Demand Shaw to hold a closing speech on this matter, as he requested as the High Speaker of the Galactic Council left the stage, all optical sensor organs focused on Ambassador Shore, who slowly walked towards the front of the chamber. Even those unfamiliar with humans could see that he seemed tired, defeated, a sight that delighted the ambassadors belonging to the predatory coalition. It was obvious that he had hoped the council would decide in humanity's favor, that they would come and intervene when he reached the speaker's podium. He visibly pulled himself together, straightened his back, and spoke calmly but determinedly. "Dear members of the Intergalactic Council, I have witnessed your decision, and I must say that I am truly disappointed. I saw proud warrior races cower away from a challenge to the authority they should protect. I saw pious races turn from the tenets their guards have decreed under threat. I saw the herd close their eyes as one of their own. One of the young is attacked." He stopped, took a deep breath, and looked defiantly around the council chamber, leaning over the podium as he continued. "But that is the point, isn't it? None of you consider us part of the herd, part of the pack, barely a tolerated part of the group. We were the outsiders, the ones that didn't quite fit in correctly, the ones without a group. We have allies, yes, the Kitson, the Arborians, the Falcons, the Legans, and the Feller, and we still trust them implicitly." He looked around at the chambers of the mentioned races, and his warm smile was returned from each one. "But we belong to none of the factions that the council is so proud of." He stopped, adjusted his clothes, and returned to an official upright posture, regaining a certain civility that was slightly at odds with the previous emotional outburst. "I wish to inform the Council of Humanity's hopes when joining the Alliance, as well as 3 important facts that seem to have escaped the notice of every member of this council." He pressed a button on the podium's console, and pictures started to be projected on the wall behind him. The same display was seen on the datapads in front of each member of the council. Images of humanity's first contact, their introduction to the council, peace treaties, trade deals, a copy of the acceptance speech of their first council member, and many more were shown, each filled with either smiling humans or words of peace. When we entered the Alliance, we saw members of different races discuss together, races descended from predators and races descended from prey, coming together without fear and aiming to find peaceful solutions for intergalactic problems. And we began to hope that we would find peace in your midst. We weren't welcomed happily, but we were accepted, and we were content with that. At first, you feared us coming from a death world and being able to eat most types of flora and fauna. After some time, you saw us as peaceful and kind, albeit cunning beings. We became well known for our tacticians and our negotiators, and have lived peacefully among you for the last 20 years. However, perhaps because of prejudice, perhaps because of envy, or perhaps because of instinctual weariness, because we were different, we became isolated and are now under attack by 3 races calling themselves the Predatory Coalition. We had hoped to finally find peace among peers and the stars, and found ourselves in a war. We are currently defending our home system from a fleet containing ships from more than a dozen races, while our colonies are blockaded and starved out. Our hope now lies before us, shattered on the ground. From a few chambers came sounds that showed satisfaction for the specific race that occupied them. He waved his hand, and the hollow screen was wiped clean. "The first fact is that but we asked this council to stop them. Countless times, pointed out the laws they had broken, the regulations they had ignored. We offered treaties and deals, asked our trade. Partners asked our allies and friends. We were denied at each step. Each sentence was punctuated with a new document being added to the display. The council saw no reason to act. Our allies were pressured in their own conflicts, as their own enemies suddenly gained new allies, and our trade partners started recalling their ships from our territory, fearing for the safety of their people even when the coalition shot down crossed-star relief vessels bringing supplies for civilians, which this council had granted galactic immunity. There was no reaction as he continued. More and more petitions, treaties, and evidential pictures filled the hollow screen until they started to overlap. When he finished, the wall was buried under documents signed by the Tan Federation. He paused, and as he said the next, he looked as if a heavy burden had fallen from him. Therefore, the Terran Federation finds that the blame lies solely on the Galactic Council. Ambassador Shaw lowered his voice as his eyes looked past the onlookers. His voice dropped to a deep growl when he continued for the current situation. and for what will happen next upon hearing his voice. Many of the council members shuddered. The second fact has to do with the council's factions and our categorization. Carnivores looked at our bodies, saw how we were missing claws for killing and thick fur or shells to protect us, and called us prey. Peaser looked at our missing evolutionary traits to hunt. Oceanic animals and shunned us. Herbivores looked at our eyes and our fangs and were sure that we weren't one of them. We weren't calciferous, as we wouldn't consume most rocks, and we surely weren't autotrophs. The council therefore created a new faction term and deemed us carry and feeder's corpse. Seekers we were called. We didn't mind, as we didn't know how highly the council valued their factions had we known. We might have spoken up when being mocked, he said dismissively. His tone shifted as he raised his voice with a slightly ominous undertone. But now we wish to remind the council of our answer regarding our diet. When we were asked during the mission procedures we are omnivores, we can eat just about anything. We didn't lie, he showed a short smile. Many of the predatory races noticed how they instinctively took a step back, while most of the races descended from prey realized that they hadn't moved a muscle for the last few seconds. The human ambassador raised his hand to point towards the holoscreen, which now showed pictures of hundreds of races each, with either an animal or a plant next to them. Here is a list of all the council's races and the closest equivalent species on our planet. Be it plant or animal, you will see that. Except for the Orions and the leg tulin, which are mineral-based life forms, we have a comparison for every species. He grinned wolfishly, and the room full of eyes hanging on his words noticed the fangs in his smile, and each of them was consumed by hum. In the past, another handwave and a picture of a food item appeared next to each picture of Earth. Life forms and unrest started to ripple through the chamber. A few of the ambassadors fainted and had to be caught by their aides. The predatory coalition looked worried at the crow, the wolf, and the bear on the list, and noticed the human looking at them. His eyes suddenly very much those of a predator. The High Speaker tried to calm them half-heartedly, visibly uneasy upon finding her species at the top of the list, next to a pangolin and another picture of a soup with scales floating in it. She visibly fought her instinct to curl up the human ambassador, loudly cleared his throat. The deep rumble capturing the attention of all conscious individuals in the room. The third fact is that the predatory coalition has kept interstellar communication intact. Probably so we can use it to broadcast our surrender directly to our colonies before this meeting started, when the High Speaker advised me that this petition would probably be denied. We used it not one being in the chamber, thought the turn used the network to surrender, but they felt fear just thinking about alternatives. Their fears were confirmed when the human continued. We used it to broadcast the following 4 sentences. Dear citizens of the Terran Federation, we apologize as we currently cannot come to your aid. The Leakin and Octar row fleets keep our ships from this sector, and the Aryans have shot down the cross-star vessels that were en route to deliver food supplies to you. We grieve for the losses you must have endured and the hunger you will continue to endure until we can come to aid you, until we arrive to free you from the suppression of the Abraxan. We have only one solace that we can offer you. Their edible terror flooded the faces of all species. The thought of thousands of starved humans ripping them apart and devouring the pieces filled them with a dread. They had thought lost long ago. The human continued over the stunned silence as the data he now started to report appeared behind him on the hollow screen. Not a single word helped to calm the cell. Room now approximately 1 hour later of the 3 divisions from the Abraxan 3rd Infantry Corps, still deployed on planet Arcadia, totaling 30,000 soldiers, ordered to enforce the suppression of slightly over 500,000 humans, currently only Music 2,451. The ambassador closed his eyes for a moment, took a heavy breath as the numbers on the hollow screen corrected themselves, and then continued determinedly. 2,345 soldiers remain alive according to their identification tags. Our fleet reported that the Coalition fleet routed 25 minutes after being declared excluded from the Gena Convention and left the Sol system with forces estimated to be at 23% of their initial strength. Fleet Command has confirmed that our guided warp missiles have crippled the home fleets of each Coalition member. We have confirmation of impacts in each capital city and seat of government. The human looked up from his datapad, staring at them almost apathetically. Humanity has tried its hardest to tame itself for the last 20,000 years. We had our struggles and our failures, but we continue to hope. We hope to shed our primal urges, our instincts. We hope to become truly civilized when we encountered other civilizations, to learn from them and follow their example. But we found animals being proud of their history and celebrating their diets. The being started to talk with more vigor, a fire burning in its eyes, each word being uttered faster and faster. We have tried to stay tame, tried our best to be peaceful, kept being civil, restrained the urges, and endured as much as we could. But you kept pushing, you kept prodding, you kept rattling the bars of our cage, and now the beast looked at them with a hunger that only a minuscule few of them could imagine. Now the cage is open, you fool so proud of your heritage as animals will. Now understand why your ancestors banded together, why they sought out technology, why they built homes, and why they left behind the way of the animal. You have unleashed the primal beast, and now you will remember your place on the food chain. The beast growled with a certainty that left no doubt beneath us. The beast closed its eyes a few deep breaths, and Terran Ambassador Daman Shaw opened them again in a calming voice. He said to our allies, "Do not worry, our history has shown that once we have bonded, you are part of the pack. Any respect, courtesy, and protection we give to our own, you will receive as well." His eyes went hard and his voice was that of a merciless hunter when he continued to our enemies. "I only say this, we are coming. Feel free to run. We'll catch up when you are exhausted." He clapped his hands, the sound making every being in the room flinch, and said with a calm, almost jovial voice that was the closing speech of the Terran Federation, "Have a nice day." Ambassador Shore stepped away from the podium, and many members of the council were reminded of the mild-mannered and kind diplomat they had met multiple times before, until they looked again at the list of species still being shown on the Holak, and saw the confidence in his stride, a confidence that was only displayed by an apex predator in its own hunting grounds,